In a quiet Nevada desert town, the air always felt thick with dust, secrets, and the kind of heat that made everything shimmer. Frankie Halle, a sharp-witted, restless woman with dark eyes and a stubborn jawline, returned home for the first time in 6 years. She had left in a storm of anger, ambition, and heartbreak, feeling too big for the town that kept trying to shrink her. Now she was back for one reason. Her injured father needed help running the family's small horse ranch. Frankie didn't expect anything else. She certainly didn't expect her. Clara Kingston, calm, sun-kissed, maddeningly gentle Clara had once been Frankie's closest friend, then almost lover, then her greatest regret. Frankie first saw her again at the stables, brushing down a chestnut mare. Clara hadn't changed much, but the soft curves of her face had matured into a confident steadiness. Her hair was a little longer, her stance a little stronger, but her eyes, those warm hazel eyes, still held the desert in them. And something else hurt, maybe. Or memory. Clara froze when she saw Frankie approaching. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, breath suspended like a rope drawn tight. "Well," Clara finally said, voice controlled but edged, "look who the desert dragged back." Frankie smirked her default shield. "Nice to see you too." Clara didn't say it was nice, but the smallest twitch at the corner of Clara's lips contradicted her words. Over the next few days, they orbited each other, pulled in by a gravity both familiar and dangerous. Frankie tried to keep her distance, but Clara always seemed to be where she wasn't supposed to be, feeding the horses, caring for her father, repairing the fences, laughing with the stable hands, being good, being kind, being everything Frankie remembered loving and everything she wasn't sure she deserved. One evening, after repairing a broken corral gate, Clara wiped sweat from her forehead and said, "You could have called, you know." Frankie swallowed. "You could have too. You left. You let me." That silenced them both. The sky faded into pink and gold. Coyotes called somewhere far away. The silence stretched until it snapped. "I was in love with you," Clara said quietly. Frankie's breath caught. She had imagined this admission so many times, but hearing it out loud made her heart thunder. "I know," Frankie whispered. "And you knew," Clara continued, hurt flickering across her face. "But you wouldn't stay." "I wasn't enough to make you stay?" "That's not true." Frankie stepped closer, voice trembling. "You were the only thing that almost made me stay." Clara's eyes softened in a way that made Frankie feel entirely seen, fragile and raw. "When you left," Clara said, "it felt like I lost the future I wanted." Frankie didn't look away. "What if that future isn't lost?" Clara hesitated. "People don't change that easily." "Maybe not," Frankie admitted. "But maybe I was not supposed to change out there. Maybe I was supposed to change here with you." The truth hung between them, bright and painful. Clara took a slow step forward. "Frankie, why are you really back?" Frankie exhaled. "Because I'm tired of running from the same place, the same people, the same girl." Clara's breath hitched. The desert wind rustled the dry grass, pushing them gently closer. Frankie lifted her hand, brushing a loose strand of hair behind Clara's ear. Clara closed her eyes at the touch, leaning in just enough to undo Frankie entirely. "What if you leave again?" Clara whispered. "What if I don't?" Frankie replied. Clara opened her eyes, searching for the lie that was not there. And then, slowly, she stepped forward until her forehead rested against Frankie's. The kiss began as a question, soft, hesitant, full of everything unsaid. But as Frankie's hand slid to Clara's waist and Clara's fingers curled into Frankie's shirt, the kiss deepened into something fierce and long buried. The kind of kiss that rewrites old mistakes and promises new beginnings. When they finally broke apart, breathless and trembling, Clara whispered, "You feel like home?" Frankie smiled, real, vulnerable. "So do you." The desert around them was still glowing, as if holding its breath for them. For the first time in years, Frankie did not feel too big or too broken. She felt right, rooted, pulled toward a future she thought she had lost. A future standing right in front of her with dust on her boots, sunlight in her hair, and love in her eyes. "Stay," Clara murmured. Frankie took her hand. "I already am."